years back, is now expected to be named the microblogging site's new and permanent CEO this week. And Ford is recalling more than 300,000 older Windstar minivans because of issues from an earlier recall of a faulty rear axle. Tom Busby, CNBC.
A promise was made. A promise that hit the beaches of Normandy. A vow that captured Iwo Jima. A contract that weathered Tet. A pledge that stormed the desert in Iraq. An IOU that braved IEDs in Kandahar. A promise was made to America's veterans. DAV fights to keep that promise, so all veterans and their families get the benefits and support they earned. For help, visit DAV.org.
Ringing in the ears, all-natural ring relief helps. Our customers tell the story.
Peter C. says, "This is the first thank you I have ever written to a company. Your ring relief product has greatly reduced my tinnitus. Thank you for the good night's sleep."
James H. wrote, "This is the first time I've been free of ear ringing in over a year."
These are unsolicited testimonials from our customers. No gimmicks. If you suffer from tinnitus, join the thousands who found relief with all-natural ring relief.
Ring relief is available at Kroger, CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, and Walmart. Or go to ringrelief.com for ring relief eardrops.
Consider this your invitation to sell. At buysellmakeoffer.com, you can sell as much as you want for the next 60 days without paying any fees whatsoever. Sound incredible? It is, and it's true. Buysellmakeoffer.com is the new exciting way to sell your stuff online. Make extra money right now. Sell your old car, furniture, video games, household items, clothes, even your home. Sell anything that's legal. Load up your stuff to sell right now at buysellmakeoffer.com. This is your official invitation to get on board to sell your stuff right now. Free for the next 60 days. And once you see how easy it is, you'll want to sign up for more because there are no item fees. That's right. Take this opportunity to move items from the other guys and sell it for free. You might even win a Samsung tablet, Amazon gift cards, and other cool prizes. BuySellMakeOffer.com is the future of online selling. You can use Skype to talk to your buyer or seller. Plus, you can use video to showcase your items. BuySellMakeOffer.com.
Good afternoon. It's 3:03. I'm Di Rice with the very latest in live local news here on Kcaa 1050 AM. 4 people who worked at a Rancho Cucamonga business that offered bogus loan modification programs to thousands of financially distressed homeowners were sentenced this week to federal prison. One of the leaders of the scheme was ordered to spend 20 years in custody. Victims lost more than $7 million when they paid for services that were never provided. The telemarketing operation was known under a series of names, including 21st Century Legal Services Incorporated. More than 4,000 homeowners across the nation were bilked, many of whom lost their homes to foreclosure. Those sentenced in U.S. District Court included a couple from Rancho Cucamonga, Christopher Paul George, 45, and Yadira Garcia Padilla, 38. And a storage facility has yielded an arsenal of guns, ammunition, and parts for firearms. A call of a suspicious U-Haul truck in the middle of the night earlier this week brought police to the facility on Foothill Boulevard. 2 storage units were open, revealing more than 300 firearms, military-grade machines, scrap parts like illegal weapons, and over 20,000 rounds of ammunition. Stephen Durant, 57, could not offer an explanation and was arrested on multiple charges for possessing illegal firearms and an explosive destructive device. Durant had been on probation in Arizona for manufacturing machine guns. Inland Empire weather, sunny and hot all this week. Highs today 94. We already hit our high of 94 earlier. Now we're back down to 93. Overnight lows 63. Looking at your drive, not a lot going on out there, although there is an accident in the right lane of the 10 eastbound just before California Street. That is still working, and it involves a big rig blocking 3 right lanes, so traffic is pretty well backed up to Mount Vernon Avenue. And then in Colton, the off-ramp is blocked at the 215, make that northbound side, 215 and the 10 freeway. That is the very latest with news, weather, and traffic on the station that leaves no listener behind, KCAA 1050 AM.
What have I learned so far? I've learned that there is no one path that's right for everyone. I've learned that without my high school diploma, I can only do so much. My options were limited. I found a free personalized learning program with Learn for Life that is a flexible schedule so I could keep my job while earning my high school diploma. I found new career training opportunities that would jumpstart my future. What have I learned so far? I've learned that I can change my life.
Are you 14 to 19 years old and looking for a free high school diploma program with flexible meeting times? This program allows you to keep your job or important family responsibilities while earning your high school diploma. If you've fallen behind on credits or dropped out of school completely, get back on track with free tutoring, a caring faculty, and one-on-one attention. For more information on how to reach your graduation goal, visit learnforlife.org. That's LEARN, the number 4, LIFE.org. Or enroll today by calling 877-360-LEARN. That's 877-360-LEARN.
Wishing for a little bit more information? You'll get it all here on KCAA Radio, AM 1050.
Soon, very, very soon, to be also on your FM dial, and then another FM dial. So we're going to really be broadcasting around the area. I welcome you all today, and I'm going to have a wonderful guest. Kelly, are you on the line?
We hear you, Dr. Gabriel.
You are on the line. Okay, sounds good to me. I want to know a little bit about you. Tell me, you were a reporter at the Washington Times. Was that exciting?
I can barely hear you.
Oh, you can? Oh, my goodness. Can we help? Can the engineer help us?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure
the engineer is trying to help us right now.
You got to be on.
And now, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's much better.
Marvelous. We have a wonderful engineer. She did magic.
Okay, I like magic.
She did magic. Kelly, I am so happy to have you with us today. I am very much into what you do, and I have supported CCHR for a long time in many ways, and I want to continue to do that. And I would like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your time at the Washington Times. Sounds interesting. The Washington Times has got to be a newspaper where you have a lot of opportunity to do a lot of crazy things.
Well, the Washington Times is I guess you might call the conservative paper in Washington to the Washington Post, which most consider a liberal paper. But that's really where I started writing about the fraud of psychiatric diagnosing and also the dangers of psychiatric drugs. I wrote a piece in 1999 called Guns and Doses, which exposed basically the school shooters up to that point. I think I tracked 11 of them were on psychiatric drugs at the time of the shooting.
And how many were there of the 11? I mean, the 11 was how many of what? Almost all of them, I'm sure.
Well, at that time, I was only going for what I could find out. I mean, I didn't go and count how many school shootings there had been in the history of the country. I just went back as far as I could to what were, most of the biggest ones that we saw in the news anyway. The most recent 11 at that time had been on psychiatric drugs or were withdrawing from psychiatric drugs at the time of the shooting incident. So that's really how I got into writing about psych drugs and the fraud of psychiatric diagnosing at Insight Magazine at the Washington Times.
Well, you know what? That's a very important thing to do, to educate people on the problems, potential evils, if you will, of psych drugs. I see them all the time because we deal with a lot of brain-injured patients, a lot of football players from the NFL, a lot of other athletes, and also soldiers. And many of them are victims of certain concussive accidents, and some of them are diagnosed with PTSD. And let me tell you something. It is sad. It is sad what those drugs are doing to them. I see it.
Well, again, I mean, I'm sure that, being a supporter of the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, you understand that there is no science to PTSD, okay? I mean, there's not a brain abnormality that is PTSD. Okay. So many of these people coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan, are experiencing normal normal behaviors, okay? To us, they seem abnormal, but when you're in a war situation, much of this is normal. But we are diagnosing it as a mental disorder and then drugging these young service members, and it's horrific what's happening to them.
Well, also, the financial end of it, I heard at a conference that the average cost of treating a lot of these soldiers that are diagnosed with PTSD and also TBI is because they seem to give them a lot of drugs, but the average cost I heard was around $6,000 a month per patient.
Well, I totally can believe that. The problem, though, is that if you know some of the statistics about PTSD, the majority of people in the military who are being diagnosed with PTSD never saw combat. So that tells you a lot.
It sure does tell you a lot.
Okay? It tells you a lot about the fraud of psychiatric diagnosing. There's no science to it. So, willy-nilly, anybody can have PTSD. And, when you have a majority of people in the military being diagnosed with PTSD who never saw combat, we have a real problem with diagnosing then.
I had a very interesting experience with a very well-known and very famous psychiatrist. His office was across from our medical institute for about 10 years. We were maybe 800 feet apart, and we worked on each other's patients and helped each other and whatever. And I asked him, I said, how did you start doing this? He was doing things in a different manner. He was using brain SPECT scans to try to figure out what's wrong with somebody instead of just guessing. He was doing diagnostics just like we do when we look for physiological problems. Uh-huh. He said, well, he said, I'm a psychiatrist, and for years I sat back and I listened to people, and I just sort of guessed what was wrong with them from what they told me. And then I would write prescriptions, and then sometimes the prescriptions wouldn't work. And so I'd add another prescription, and maybe they wouldn't work. And so the literature said, add another prescription. So I added another prescription. And he found out that his people were all drugged up and they were acting like zombies. So he decided that he was going to take the stance of doing some real diagnostic work to try to find out what is really wrong with them and then treat them in a fashion that would help to heal them rather than do whatever the drugs do. And he's doing a great job now, and he's got a huge practice, and people from all over the country are coming, and children being treated with various modalities that are not on a lot of drugs, which is amazing to me. But he's doing it just like a physician would do a physiological thing, and I think that's great.
Well, that's a place to start to find out if there's any biological, physiological problem. Unfortunately, often that is never the case. With psychiatry, they ask you a few questions, and zippity-doo-dah, you're on an antidepressant, antipsychotic, stimulant, you name it.
And then you hear an ad on television that says, add Abilify to your thing, and then tell your doctor about Abilify, and maybe you can add it to your protocol. And then, of course, on the side effect thing, the music comes and all the wild colors come, and then all the side effects are there. And I thought, my God, who would ever take that?
Well, right. It's like the little helper pill to the pill that you're taking. It's ridiculous. Again, you're on the same page. CCHR has been writing about this for literally decades. I've been writing about it now for almost 20 years. And, it's interesting. It came out last week that not only did they find the study 329, I don't know if you saw this in the news, study 329 was used for the approval of Paxil. They found that actually Paxil was no more effective than a sugar pill, and that it actually did cause suicide. So this was a very big study that came out, or at least a review of Study 329. And then, of course, the big study that showed that people between the ages of 15 and 24 taking antidepressants were exhibiting a great deal of violent behavior. Go figure. This is what we've been writing about for years.
I've got two brothers there right now, two brothers of a patient of ours, his sons, that are just total wrecks, psychological wrecks. They're violent. They're out of control. They're both men now. One is in his late 20s, the other's in his early 30s, and they're on 9 drugs, each one of them. Nine drugs. Is that horribly unusual or not?
No, unfortunately, it's not unusual. I mean, to see people be on a cocktail of psychiatric drugs is pretty much becoming the norm, unfortunately. And it's interesting because the more we find out about the dangers of these drugs, it just seems like the more they increase. Like the public is not getting the full story, and that's our job, obviously, to make them aware. And it all starts, of course, with the psychiatric diagnosing. It's completely not based in science. This is where the problem starts. Whenever you're guessing about someone's behavior, it's your opinion of their behavior. That's a bad way to diagnose anyone. And then, to add insult to injury, you're putting them on drugs that even the pharmaceutical companies admit they don't even know how they work in the brain. So this is a problem.
It's a big problem, and it's bringing in billions. Well, this is kind of what I'm against, or what I'm up against. A group of us years ago formed an organization, and we hired a person to be a lobbyist in Congress and help us get the members of Congress to realize that these brain injuries, many of them were real brain injuries, and we could track them with brain SPECT scans, and we figured out a way using hyperbaric oxygen therapy which can heal all kinds of wounds rather quickly, much more quickly than they would ever heal otherwise, and some that would never heal, we can heal. And it's kind of crazy, but we can. So we did a bunch of studies, and we are very comfortable that we can help 7 out of 10 of these men who have brain injury, and that they do have TBI, and that with a certain number of hyperbaric oxygen therapy treatments, along with a few other therapeutic things, we can bring them back. And our group treated one general who was a general, literally, and he was also a sitting judge, and he really became kind of a mess. And we brought him back. We gave him his life back. And George Visger, hyperbarics, brought his life back. He was an NFL player for the 49ers. He became a zombie. He gave me permission to use his name, and we work with him all the time. Became a total zombie, and he was on drugs. Hyperbaric therapy cleared him up. Hyperbaric therapy cleared this other gentleman up, and it's amazing. And we've done a couple hundred patients. So I figured out that the drugs they're taking costing the government about $1.5 billion a month, and we come up with a way to treat them for around $20,000 that literally fixes the problem. And so guess now who we may be the enemy of. Easy to see, because if we can help to get these guys back on their feet without needing any drugs anymore, or maybe just needing one drug out of however many 9 or 10 they're taking, it's hard for us.
Are you talking about psychiatric drugs that they're taking?
Yes, I'm talking.
Well, they don't need any of them.
No.
I mean, these drugs don't treat any known abnormalities.
But they're all on them. They're on them. They're taking them. And I go to Venice and Naples over near Santa Monica every couple of months to visit. There's a lot of homeless guys there, and they're veterans, and they're on all of these drugs, and they're wandering around like zombies. Zombies. So we're on a mission to try to, I'm doing some fundraising now to try to treat some of these people. And hospitals charge for hyperbaric therapy. I'm not going to mention the name, but one of our most famous hospitals in all of Southern California charges $2,080 a treatment. And that's crazy, because I can do it for probably $160 a treatment.
Well, that's great. If you can help these guys get off these drugs which don't treat anything, well, that's a great thing.
Yeah, well, we want to do it. We're working on it. I'm doing, I do a lot. I do all I can pro bono, but we do have to pay the bills. That's one of the great challenges of life.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit more about CCHR. Tell the people about CCHR.
Well, the Citizens Commission on Human Rights has been around for decades. It's a mental health watchdog organization. It does some excellent work. It provides enormous amount of information on their website. It would be cchrint.org. That's cchrint.org. And if you have any questions about the dangers of psychiatric drugs or the fraud of psychiatric diagnosing, or even if you're, have information to provide to them about maybe some abuses that may be occurring in some sort of medical facility regarding mental health, they're happy to take that information. But anybody who has any questions about this issue, this is the website to go to. It's just fabulous.
CCHRINT stands for CCHR International, right?
CCHR, yes, Citizens Commission on Human Rights International.
Okay, sounds good. So everybody wants information, go. It is a wonderful website, wonderful. And the organization has helped so many people. I know some people who've been helped on a very practical level where their kids, children, were being abused by state authorities and forced onto psych drugs and things, and CCHR has helped them legally to be able to get their kids back off of the drugs.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful organization that does so much work to help people become informed about this issue.
Tell me, in your past, you've had a kind of an interesting life. You also were a congressional staffer, is that right?
I was.
Well, tell me about that. What's that like?
Well, I was a congressional staffer for 17 years. I worked for 4 different members of Congress over my tenure and learned a lot.
I bet you did. Some of it you probably shouldn't reveal.
That's right. Yeah, well, it was a learning experience, and I walked away with a lot of good information, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to do it.
Well, that's got to be very interesting, and it must have prepared you to do a lot of things. And you have a book. I want to know about your book.
Yeah, I wrote a book. It's called Psyched Out. You can get it on Amazon.com. And then basically, again, it talks about the fraud of psychiatric diagnosing, and it talks about the dangers of the psychiatric drugs that are provided as a quote-unquote treatment for these fraudulent diagnoses. So I recommend everybody pick up a copy.
Psyched Out. Amazon.com, right?
Right.
Okay, very good. I think that we really need to do everything we can to educate people to know more about what's going on, because these things are affecting people's bodies, and some of you who are listening have family members that are on drugs, and they put kids on drugs. I spoke at a medical convention a couple of weeks ago, and there was someone there who was talking about small children. I mean, I'm talking about almost infants being psychologically diagnosed with the problem and given psych drugs. Now, is this a fantasy or is it real?
It's absolutely real. The CDC released that data this year. I think we had 10,000 0 to 1 year olds who are being given drugs for ADHD.
This
is a great question, isn't it, Dr. Gabriel? This is a great question. If psychiatry bases their diagnosis on being able to speak to someone, they have to ask someone how they're feeling. How do you talk to a 0 to 1 year old to get them to tell you what's going on?
Well, you don't. You make a crazy assumption, maybe by some form of behavior or something, but that means nothing.
That's ridiculous. We all this is a toddler. This is not even a toddler. 0 to 1. I mean, come on.
And they administer these drugs to them. How do they do it? The formula or not? What do they do?
Well, I don't know. All I know is that was the number that came out from the CDC. And again, I mean, at every age group, and it's getting younger and younger and younger, we're drugging our kids at every age level. And it's based on bogus psychiatric diagnosis. That is where this problem has to be solved, is at the beginning. It's the first step. You cannot get the drugs without the bogus diagnosis.
Well, don't our medical authorities, the American Medical Association, the licensing boards get into stuff like this ever?
No one. This is, again, you're asking really great questions. This is what's important. Why isn't the AMA stepping up and going, hey, where's your science to support, ADHD? Where's an abnormality, an objective, confirmable abnormality? That's what we call medicine. That's what we call science, an objective, confirmable abnormality. Where is it that is ADHD? Nobody's asking these questions. Lawmakers need to ask these questions. Because it's, number one, it's harming millions of Americans and people all over the world, okay, because they're put on very, very dangerous psychiatric drugs once they get the diagnosis. But it's also costing nations an enormous amount of money to keep up with the mental health, quote-unquote, treatments. They never end. Once you're getting treated, it's like it's the next thing. It's cradle to grave. You never get off the drugs.
Well, I've seen that. You see, I see our medical center works on helping people cure themselves by what we help them do rather than continuing to treat them on a long-term basis. And a lot of people that come to us have been treated for years and years and years, costing tens and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands sometimes of dollars, and they're really no better. They're no worse, some of them, but they're no better, and we can get them a whole lot better.
Well, certainly, if you can get them off the drugs and get the chemicals, out of their system, that's a good start, and that's a great start. My hat's off to you. Problem is that they're continually sold as drugs that treat some abnormality. There is no abnormality. That's what people need to understand. Your listeners need to understand that. There is no abnormality that is a psychiatric diagnosis. Depression is not, bipolar is not, schizophrenia is not. There isn't any. ADHD doesn't exist as an abnormality in the body, let alone the brain.
How can we get Congress to pay more attention to the information that substantiates everything you're saying?
Well, again, having been in Congress as a staffer, it takes time. Every issue, it takes time to sort of get them on board. I think of late, many things have come out. The study about Paxil coming out showing that it was no more effective than a sugar pill, that it causes suicide. I mean, these are all important things that lawmakers, not just in Congress, but on a state level, need to be aware of. And they need to start recommending that those particular drugs be pulled from the state drug formulary. That's a first step. That's one thing that they can do. As far as being aware of the fraud of psychiatric diagnosing, it's going to take hearings. It's going to take Congress calling in the APA and having them explain to them where exactly these abnormalities exist. Because it's fraudulent. You're telling, a parent, when you tell them they're suffering from ADHD, you're suggesting there's an abnormality there, and there isn't. And this drug that you're going to give them, this stimulant, which is the closest thing we have to cocaine, is going to help them. That's wrong. And it needs to be addressed, and only lawmakers can do that at this point.
I think it's a national tragedy. And I think
it's criminal.
Yes, criminal, and has the potential for really hurting our society.
Well, it already has. I mean, I think that the toll, all you have to do is look at the fact that we have 80 million Americans on a psychiatric drug. We have 1 in 4 adult Americans taking at least one antidepressant. That's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. Well, I want to encourage everybody to write to your congressman and ask them for what? Ask them to examine this or to investigate it, or what do we
Sure,
ask?
An investigation would be good. A congressional investigation would be swell. How about the Library of Congress? They have an entire section. All they do is do research for congressmen. They could do an investigation of the science behind psychiatric diagnosing.
How do they do that? Would Congress have to order that?
One congressman. It takes one congressman to ask the Library of Congress to do that. It's called the Congressional Research Service.
Okay, everybody hear that? Congressional Research Service. Write your congressman and ask him to ask them to
do an investigation of the psychiatric diagnosing, the science to support psychiatric diagnosing.
If anybody needs any help or any information, I'm going to give you my information line that records whatever questions you have. It's area code 949-680-1915. And for those of you who weren't ready to write it down, get ready to write it down. Grab a pen or a pencil or a Crayola or prick your finger with blood. Get some paper and write down 680-1915. 915. And that's the phone number, and the area code is 949. So I'll say it again, area code 949-680-1915. You can leave any message you want. I'll call you back. I will telephone you back if you leave your phone number. And that's a very good thing. Well, you know, Kelly, it's been really exciting having you with us today. I want you to tell people again about Psyched Out and how they can get it.
Yeah, again, my book is called Psyched Out. You can get it on Amazon. I also want to just remind them one more time to go to cchrint.org, which is the Citizens Commission on Human Rights International, for any information they may want about psychiatric diagnosing, the fraud of psychiatric diagnosing, and the dangers associated with psychiatric drugs. It's a fabulous website, and they'll get a lot of information.
Well, it is. I've spent many, many hours on it, and many hours in meetings and wonderful organizational dinners and things, and I've learned an awful lot about this organization over the last 15 years, and I really appreciate it, and I think that they're doing a wonderful job, and we all need to support them. And Kelly, thank you very much. God bless you, and I hope that if I can help you in any way, you'll please feel free to call me.
Thank you, Dr. Gabriel.
And come back
I
sometime,
will.
Okay?
I will, thank you.
Call Vicki and tell her, and she'll bring you back.
Okay.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay, let's take a break.
Hyperbaric oxygen therapy has only lately begun to gain recognition for treatment of chronic degenerative health problems, including stroke, diabetic ulcers, wound healing, brain injury, and many other disorders. Whenever blood flow and oxygen delivery to vital organs is reduced, healing can potentially be aided with hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Are you a candidate for hyperbaric oxygen therapy?
Contact Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel, PhD, for a free consultation and see if this groundbreaking therapy can help you. Mention KCAA and get a free gift. Call toll-free 1-877-423-7986. That's 1-877-423-7986.
Or go to hyperbaric-solutions.com. That's www.hyperbaric-solutions.com.
Call toll-free right now, 1-877-423-7986. Hyperbaric Oxygen Therapy.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Behind on your payments or barely making minimums? Do your massive interest payments have you running like mad in circles? How long can you keep it up? Stop running. Let the Thomas & Law Group carefully plan your escape. The Thomas & Law Group has proven itself for over 18 solid years, helping thousands of people like you and me reclaim our financial future. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and offices in all 50 states. And the best part? There are no upfront fees at all. You won't pay a dime until the job's done. No upfront costs, no monthly fees, no banking fees. No other law firm does that. I'm a paid spokesperson, not a lawyer, and every case is different. But really, if you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt, call the Thomas & Law Group right away for a free, no-obligation consult with a trained legal analyst at 800-460-9790. Call now because you're tired of running in circles. 800-460-9790. 800-460-9790.
Welcome back to What's It All About? This is Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel on KCAA 1050 on your AM dial, very soon to be on your FM dial. So we are expanding our exposure. That's like going to a nudist camp, isn't it? Expanding our exposure.
Not sure if that one's good, though.
Amen. Is Dr. J on the line, our philosopher and theologian?
He sure
yes,
is.
Can everybody hear me?
Oh, I hope everybody can hear you. I don't want to miss out on what you might say.
Oh, well, my goodness. Well, I'll tell you what, there's been a number of things. People are really deeply concerned about the things that are going on, and I'm getting feedback and people wanting to know what to do with their life, what is their purpose, and they're internalizing and introspection and getting themselves kind of worked up.
Well, we get worked up sometimes when we find ourselves dropped on the earth and we don't know much about what's going on philosophically, realistically, theologically, every which way. And we end up in a state of confusion, and our educational system, for the most part, doesn't do the greatest job. So what can I say? What specific things? Do we have any specific problems that people seem to be experiencing, or that a couple of
people seem to feel very insignificant, and they feel that they're just one person, and what can they do? And then what they do is it's almost like a mental loop where they start on that, and then they say, well, then what is my purpose? What am I to do? How can I make a difference? And so they go and they get caught in this loop like what you have on a computer.
Well, Dr. J, I think I can give you an answer that is worth considering. However, I don't think most people want to know what their real purpose is, because they'll have to get off their butt, also known as ass, and work it out. And it takes energy, and it takes extension of self, and it takes developing maturity, and it takes working hard, and it takes all those things. So I'm going to give everybody a lesson in, I don't know what you want to call it, maybe a philosophical lesson in life. Let's talk about purpose. I would like everybody to imagine that you're going with me on a trip to the moon. And on the moon, we have a big series of chairs like they do the stepped-up stadium chairs, and like in a big coliseum or something. And they're all there pointed toward Earth. And so we can sit down, and we have magic glasses. These magic glasses are like binoculars, and we look through them, and we are able from the moon to the earth to look at everything on the earth and find out what it does, therefore knowing its purpose. So, what's the first thing we see when we look from the moon to the earth with our special glasses? We see the ocean, because it's the biggest thing. And we look at the ocean with our magic glasses, and we see, what is it doing? The ocean is, number one, evaporating vast amounts of water every day, every moment, every second, evaporating water. So it's giving up water. And then with our magic glasses, we can tell that all sources of water from all the earth are rushing toward the ocean to fill it up. Underground streams, underground rivers, top-of-ground rivers, rain, all sources of water, filling it up. And what is it doing? It's giving it all back in the process of evaporation, which causes rain all over the world. And when the rain falls down, it not only makes things wet, it really brings forth life all over the earth. So the ocean's purpose, take all the water it can get, give it all back all over the earth. That's the purpose of the earth. We look at the purpose of everything, and we can see from our vantage point what it is. The purpose of everything you see, including a tree, a bush, a bee, a dog, a cat, anything, is to take what it can and give it all back in its providing its meaning to Mother Earth, its relationship to Mother Earth. You plant a seed. What does it do? You plant an apple seed. An apple seed grows. It wants to take all it can. It takes all the nourishment and all the moisture that it can from the soil. It wants more. So what does it do? It grows roots to take more. It wants more. So what does it do? It pops out of the ground so that it can get carbon dioxide, which it breathes, so to speak, and gives off oxygen. It gives itself an opportunity when it pops out of the ground to absorb light, and through the process of photosynthesis, it creates energy to grow and to become bigger and healthier and stronger. And then what happens? When it starts to develop fruit, it gives it all back. It gives it all back. It never counts the cost. It just gives it all back, keeps giving it all back, keeps giving it all back. And it keeps taking. It keeps taking water from the ground. It keeps taking whatever nutrients it can get. It keeps taking the light from the sun. It takes all that it can get, and it gives it all back. That, Dr. J, is the purpose of everything that exists on Earth. It is the absolute purpose, and it is our purpose. And we don't get it. And nobody taught us that. So we need to understand that we are here together, all that we can gather, together knowledge, together a sense of how to live, to be well educated so that we can use the tools of the earth, to be also open spiritually, because life is more than just living in the body. This body lasts only for a long time. We believe that we are eternal beings, that we have a body for just a little while. That's what Christianity is all about, and some other religions as well. So however that is done, I don't know how it's done, but however it's done, we need to believe it because we need hope. If we don't have faith, we don't have hope. And if we don't have hope, we're hopeless. And that doesn't help people find their purpose. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. It makes a squirrel cage.
Squirrel cage, exactly. So I am recommending that each and every one of us take a good look at everything around us and begin to understand that we are absolutely incredible, undeniably marvelous creations, and that we are here as cells upon the earth. There are 7.5 billion approximately of us, and that we are here. What do cells do in a body? They work together to make the body work. Exactly. They don't fight with each other. What do we call it when they fight with each other and when they go crazy? We call it cancer. We call it all kinds of other diseases. Our world is cancerous because we are so screwed up. We don't have the appropriate education. We don't have the appropriate values. We're taking everything that gives value out of our existence. We're taking God, which gives us stability, out of our existence. We can't even have a cross on any public ground. You can't do this. You can't do that. The kids can't pray in school. We're going nuts. We're forgetting the rudiments and the reality of life, and we are diseased. Our society is cancerous. We need to turn that around, but first we need to turn our own lives around. And us giving back is about loving each other. It's about being kind and considerate to each other. Take the religion out of it, all of it. Take all the religion out of it. Jesus Christ's teachings are magnificent, magnificent. I don't care whether you believe he's the Son of God or whether you believe he's the Son of Buddha. I don't care what you believe. If you look at his teachings, you will find a way of life that will work. I don't care if you're an atheist. If you're an atheist, do you want to be murdered, Dr. J?
No.
Do you want to be hurt? Do you want to be robbed? Do you want to be stolen? Do you want to be gossiped about?
No.
Do you want that? All right.
No.
Do you want to be condemned?
No.
All right. What do you want? You want to be respected? You want to be loved? You want to be supported?
Yes.
You want to be helped? You want to be all these things, don't you?
Yes.
So take the religion out of Jesus' teachings. He taught us how to make the world work, and it's never worked. It has never worked. And it isn't working now. It is a mess, an absolute mess. And a lot of us, there are a lot of beautiful people in the world, and a lot of people who understand, and even that they don't understand why they understand, but they understand what to do to make life better. And they're loving and beautiful and wonderful souls who are working as cells that are meaningful and building and loving and kind and all the things that we need to be. But there are too many of us that are not. There are more that are not than there are, and that doesn't work. And so our purpose in life is to understand that we are here to take what we can, to learn what we can, to make our bodies as healthy as we can, to take all the good that we can, to make it a part of our lives, and then give it all back. Give it all back. It's all about loving. It's all about kindness. It's all about using your assets, your resources, your life, your time. I was with people last night in a class that I taught, and there are people there that do nothing. They are negative. They are miserable because they look for crap. When you go to the sewer and you look for crap, baby, you're going to find it. Stay away from the sewer. You don't need to go to the sewer. Go where you can be enlightened. Go where you can learn. Go where you can let the wonders of God's creation come into your being and become a part of you and develop who you are. That's what we need to do.
Amen.
Our
Amen.
purpose.
I can tell a story that I used to tell the people when I was a teacher for the driving. And the young men were always complaining about being stopped by the police and all the problems and such that they were having. And I said, well, you can stop that very simply. If you want to stop the police from stopping you, stop driving and acting in a manner that attracts them. And then if you want to stay out of trouble and not get into fights and trouble, stay away from the bars and the places where all that goes on. And 90% of your problems will go away overnight.
They don't listen.
They don't.
They don't do it.
That's the problem.
No. I see it in medicine all the time. I see it in medicine. A woman showed up yesterday at the medical center with the blood work, and she wonders why she's so tired and she's such a wreck and she can't do anything. I looked at her blood sugar levels, and they're 590. 590.
That's 5 times more than they should do.
Hey, I said, look, baby. I said, you're doing it. Shut your mouth. Keep your mouth shut until you put something good into it. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You know what this means? And then I looked at her A1C level, and I told her physician, who's one of the doctors there, that somebody's got to give her some hell in order to have her listen, and then give her a lot of compassion to support her in changing her lifestyle. I see diabetes reversed every week. Every week. When I worked with Dr. Whitaker and I was in charge of the Back to Health program, I saw about 3,000 people reverse from type 2 diabetes. Reverse completely. But you know how they did it? They did what they were told to do. They had to.
And they didn't need any insulin, and they didn't need any of those things.
No. They got off of it. But Jay, you have to love yourself enough to give yourself the best. And there is a price. And sometimes the price, always there's a little money involved in most things, but most of the price is you getting off your butt and doing it and being willing to give up the stuff that doesn't work. If stuff doesn't work, I don't think people have an idea of the horror of diabetes. The horror of diabetes, the horror of kidney failure and going to dialysis 3 days a week and being so weak you wish you were dead. I don't think people.
And what about amputations, losing a foot, losing an?
Hey,
I mean, my God.
I treat people like that all the time in the hyperbaric chambers, saving many feet and legs from amputation because we can do that. But if they don't do what they have to do in consuming carbs and sugar, they're going to go right back into the same thing. But it takes not only directing them and teaching them, it takes compassion. It takes helping them love themselves enough to pay the price of being as perfect as they can, of being responsible to God for doing the best they can. They have a body that it is incomprehensible. Our body is incomprehensible. Trillions and trillions and trillions of cells, just like 7.5 billion people on Earth, trillions of cells that are made to function properly. When they don't, it's because we louse them up. And maybe much of the time, most of us don't know what we're supposed to do because we're not taught. We're not taught. We're given a lot of sugar and a lot of garbage and stuff that completely ruins our body. And then we wonder what's wrong with us. Well, we got to learn. And it's up to our generation and other generations to teach the younger generations. We need to teach them your body is precious. More precious than a car, more precious than a computer, more precious than all the things you work for hard and take care of so they don't break down. Then your body breaks down. And then sometimes
the temple of the living God.
Well, yeah, and then you suffer for years. I visit convalescent hospitals. You know Deaconess Mary Ellen. She and I go to convalescent hospitals on Sundays, and we pray with the people, and we love the people, and we bring children there to make the people feel like somebody cares about them. We have people who nobody goes to visit. Nobody goes to visit. You want some purpose in life? Get off your butt and go find people like that and bring them some meaning and help them feel like they're human, even though they're on their way out of the earth. There's so much to do, and there's so many of us that are bored, that are not doing anything. It makes me sick. Every morning at Mass, I pray. I just pray, God, help me, help people turn on, and experience the love that you have so that they can start giving it away. That's how I feel about it. But anyway, I don't know if that helps anybody.
Amen. That's wonderful.
No, I don't know how wonderful it is, but it's the way I feel and the way I think. So
well, God bless you for that.
Well, he blesses me every day. And, he blesses each and every one of us every day. So
that's the key. He does do that. And people don't realize that.
Well, my word to everybody is get off your ass, take the blessings, and pray for the damn courage to follow and do and act. If you don't act, nothing happens. You want to dig a hole, you got a shovel, you got dirt, dig the damn hole. Put the shovel in the hole and make the hole. If you don't do it, you'll never have a hole. But most of us never have a hole, and then we bitch our rest of our lives that we don't have a hole. But we have a shovel and we have the dirt, we don't dig it.
That's right.
So I don't know what else to say. Well, what other things are going on in your world? What other calls? I haven't listened to our line for a while. Tomorrow I'm gonna listen to it see what's going on there.
Well, people are either caught up in themselves and terrible, terrible, terrible. What am I going to do? Or they're just out there running through life haphazardly, without a care or consideration of themselves or others, and just swath their way through life, hurting people and such like that. And they seem to be one extreme or the other, what I call the users and the takers, and then, of course, the other side of that would be the givers. And people become takers. They want to find the solution to their problems in other people, and oftentimes by using and abusing or not being thoughtful and considerate of others.
Well, I think you said a lot in a few words.
Yeah, I did.
I'm concerned, too, that we need to be in an environment on a regular basis that will lead us to positivity and to faith and to hope. And I like to point people toward becoming involved in some spiritual movement, in some church. I go to many churches often, and some of them are beautiful. They bring people together. They teach us to do what Jesus taught us. But I'm scared sometimes. I go into some churches and all I hear about is being condemned to hell if I don't do certain things, or if I do certain things, and I'm never nurtured. I'm not nurtured in some places.
That's the fear. That's the fear thing. Trying to get people to do something out of fear instead of out of love and compassion.
Yeah, I don't like that, and I don't think.
Here's another way of looking at it. When a child is growing up, the biggest problem they have is peer pressure. They don't understand it. They don't know what it is. And in reality, it's absolutely nothing. It only has the power over them that they give. But they go through life like that. And when you do that, and you are judged, and you become that which you associate with. So, to take what you've said, everything you've said today, take it all and say, okay, well, are you going to go to that place that does that, or are you going to go to a place that is loving and understanding and nurturing and supportive and helpful? That's the choice you make. And then the bottom line to all of this is our total life is the consequences of our choices.
Holy Moses, baby. That's the truth.
That's it.
I listen.
And no one wants to look at people don't want to look at that.
Well, maybe because it gives us responsibility to act, and we're kind of lazy, and we want to do things easy, and we want to drink a lot of beer and drink a lot of wine and drink a lot of booze and smoke a lot of cigarettes and kind of wig our way out of reality, I guess. I don't know.
That's part of it.
Yeah, well, I don't know, why we don't teach young people how precious we are. We are precious, absolutely precious, and we have so much to give and so much to create. And I listened to almost every word that Pope Francis spoke when he was in the country the last few days, and I couldn't find anything ugly about what he said. I could only find, maybe challenge. Look at reality. Get off your butt. Take responsibility. This is your world. Get together and make it a better place. Make your cities better. Take the poor people who are just out of it completely and try to figure out a way to really help them, not just feed them every day, but help them grow, help them be educated, help them become human, fully human. And that's really what we need to do. I just hope that we, you, myself, some of our listeners who are buying into some of this stuff will be responsible enough and motivated enough to do some of the things that we've been taught by our great teacher to do. And, you know, when I speak of the teachings of Jesus, there are others that teach wonderful things too. I'm not trying to convert anybody to anything. I'm just saying, look, this is a plan of life. Let's look at it because it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. And if enough of us did it, we'd have a really neat environment. And
that's right.
We don't seem to have it just yet.
Well, you know, you take everything you said about the Pope, and then just carry that one step further. One of the other great spiritual leaders, you know, the Dalai Lama, what does he say?
Same thing.
His religion is kindness.
Same thing.
Yes, same thing. Exactly. Same thing.
Well, you know, we're headed toward the end of our show today, and I just want to thank our listeners, those of you who put up with me screaming and shrieking and ranting and raving and going from one end to the other. I do appreciate it very much, and I appreciate your calls, and I appreciate the emails that you send occasionally, and I appreciate the questions that come in. And I don't even want to say God bless you because he does, but I want to say to you, all of you, may you have the wisdom and the courage to act in accordance with the wonderful impulses that you have to be good, to learn more, to do good, to become a fully functional human person. And that means spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, and physiologically. Means take care of all those areas, including that precious body that you have. So
thank you, Dr. Jolly, for reminding us of this, because we need to hear it.
Yeah, we need to hear it. Well, I hear it all the time. I keep myself, I spend about 2 hours a day listening, reading, and or watching things that will motivate me and keep my spirit alive and help me grow. So I think each of us at least should spend 1 minute a day doing that and then grow up to longer periods of time.
We need to nurture ourselves.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Yes.
Well, we got about a minute and a half, so I want to thank everybody for listening today. Dr. J, I want to thank you. I want to thank Kelly for being on the show. CCHR is doing a great thing. There are a lot of problems from psych drugs, and we the people need to be we the people. We the people are not. We're lost in our own stuff, and we need to get out in the world and see what's going on and take a role in helping our legislators make decisions. And that's one of my wishes for everybody. Thanks, Dr. J, for being on. And we have to go now, so we wish you all a wonderful evening. This is Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel on KCAA, soon to be on FM, now on AM only. Take care. See you next week.
Are you tired? Are you tired of being tired? Do you hate your job? Do you feel like you're on a hamster wheel and want to jump off into balanced living? Then tune in every Thursday at 7 p.m. for Take My Advice